You've been told to fake it till you make it, to project confidence, and to always be the expert. But what if the exact opposite of that advice is the key to unlocking your greatest potential and attracting unforeseen opportunities? We're about to explore a paradox, a seemingly counterintuitive principle that, when embraced, becomes the most powerful catalyst for personal growth and success. Get ready to challenge everything you thought you knew. What's the standard advice for getting ahead? Project confidence. Show off your strengths. Have a big, magnetic personality. We're taught that success is a game of bravado, of being the smartest and strongest person in the room. We build our careers, our relationships, our whole identities on this idea of assertive self-belief. But what if that's all wrong? What if the one thing you think is helping you, your confidence, your swagger, is actually the very thing secretly sabotaging your success? What if that armor you wear for protection is actually a cage, limiting your growth and poisoning your relationships? This isn't just a philosophical question. It's a practical one. And today we're going to dismantle this common belief and explore a forgotten principle that is quietly transforming lives and careers. Let's be crystal clear. We're not talking about true confidence, the kind that's earned through experience and rooted in self-awareness. We're talking about its toxic cousin, ego. The author Ryan Holiday, in his phenomenal book Ego is the Enemy, defines ego not in the Freudian sense, but as an unhealthy belief in your own importance. Arrogance. Self-centered ambition. It's that voice in your head whispering that you're better than others, that you already have all the answers, and that you deserve constant praise. The problem is our culture constantly confuses ego with confidence. We see charismatic leaders and outspoken artists, and we're told to copy their boldness. But this advice can backfire spectacularly. When we focus more on projecting confidence than on building competence, we just end up feeding our ego. And the ego is a hungry ghost. The more you feed it, the more it wants. It craves validation, it's terrified of criticism, and it shatters at the first sign of failure. Psychologically, a big ego is a dead end. It narrows our thinking and physically blocks our ability to learn. When our sense of self-importance is high, we get defensive. We filter out any feedback that challenges our worldview and surround ourselves with information that only confirms what we already believe. This is called confirmation bias, and an inflated ego puts it on steroids. You stop seeing reality as it is and instead see a warped reflection of your own presumed greatness. As Holiday writes, ego is the enemy of what you want and of what you have, of mastering a craft, of real creative insight, of working well with others. Ever felt stuck, like you're hustling and promoting yourself, but the doors you want to open stay stubbornly shut? Maybe you're knocking on them with so much force, so much ego-driven certainty, that you can't see the quiet, unlocked handle right next to you. But what if there's another way? What if the key to unlocking those doors isn't more bravado but less ego? What if the secret weapon for massive success is an ancient, often misunderstood virtue? This is the turning point. The solution is humility. Now, before you click away thinking this is a sermon on being a passive doormat, let's redefine humility. Humility isn't thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's not about having low self-esteem. Far from it. As leadership expert Simon Sinek points out, humility is being open to the ideas of others. It's a quiet confidence that comes from a deep, honest understanding of your own strengths and, more importantly, your limitations. Humility is the invisible doorway to opportunity. While ego is loudly banging on the front gate demanding to be let in, humility finds the unlocked side door. It's the quiet force that lets you grow, connect, and endure in ways ego makes impossible. Ancient wisdom puts it perfectly: when pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Proverbs 11 verse 2. Wisdom is the key to success, and humility is the path to getting it. Today we're unlocking the 3 secrets of humility, 3 powerful principles that can fundamentally change the trajectory of your life. These aren't just feel-good platitudes. They are actionable strategies, backed by modern psychology and proven by some of the most successful people in the world. Secret number 1. Humility makes you a perpetual student. The first and most powerful secret is this: humility makes you a perpetual student. Your ego has a very seductive message: You know enough. It tells you that you've graduated, you've paid your dues, you've earned your spot. It convinces you that admitting you don't know something is a sign of weakness. The ego wants to be the expert in the room. But that mindset is a death sentence for growth. The moment you think you're an expert is the moment you stop learning. Humility, on the other hand, whispers something different. There is always more to learn. It's the understanding that no matter how much you know, you're just standing on the shore of a vast ocean of knowledge. And that's not depressing, it's liberating. It frees you from the pressure of being right all the time and opens you up to infinite growth. Let's look at this through the lens of neuroscience. When you're genuinely curious, a state that's only possible when you admit you don't know something, your brain chemistry actually changes. Scientists have found that curiosity activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine, the same chemical tied to pleasure and motivation. This dopamine rush not only feels good, but it also enhances the function of the hippocampus, the part of your brain that creates long-term memories. In other words, when you're humble enough to be curious, your brain becomes a sponge, primed to learn more effectively. Arrogance and ego shut down these very systems. This isn't just a theory, it's a proven strategy. When Satya Nadella took over as CEO of Microsoft in 2014, the company was stagnating, stuck in a toxic know-it-all culture. Nadella, inspired by Stanford psychologist Carol Dweck, championed a massive shift from a know-it-all to a learn-it-all culture. He told his employees, the student who is a learn-it-all will eventually surpass the know-it-all. This wasn't just a catchy slogan. It meant admitting when they were wrong, listening to customers with empathy, and collaborating with teams that were once rivals. The result? Ryan Holiday notes that greatness comes from humble beginnings. It comes from grunt work. The ego tells you you're too good for menial tasks. But the humble person sees these as priceless opportunities to learn from the ground up. The ego wants the glory of the finished product. Humility embraces the process of building it. So, the first secret is to kill the expert in your mind. Embrace being a perpetual student. Approach every conversation and every project with the question, what can I learn here? This shift doesn't make you weaker. It makes you infinitely more adaptable, insightful, and ultimately more successful. Secret number 2, humility builds deeper connections. The second secret? Humility is the bedrock of all meaningful relationships. It's the invisible force that builds trust, sparks collaboration, and turns rivals into partners. Ego, by its very nature, separates people. It's always comparing and competing. Am I smarter than them? Am I more successful? Am I getting enough credit? This mindset is poison in any team environment. An ego-driven person walks into a room and thinks, here I am. A humble person walks in and thinks, there you are. It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. Think of it this way, ego builds walls, but humility builds bridges. When you're operating from ego, you listen just to find flaws in the other person's argument so you can plan your rebuttal. This creates an adversarial dynamic where no one feels heard. Trust evaporates. Humility, on the other hand, practices active listening. It quiets the internal me monologue and genuinely seeks to understand the other person's perspective. This is one of the most powerful tools of influence you can have. As Simon Sinek says, there is a difference between listening and waiting for your turn to speak. The ego waits to speak. Humility listens. This isn't about being weak. In fact, true strength lies in being so secure in your own worth that you don't need to constantly prove it. You can afford to give credit to others and admit when you're wrong. Consider Oprah Winfrey. Her unparalleled success is built on her incredible ability to connect with people. A huge part of that is her willingness to be vulnerable about her own struggles. An ego-driven person would hide these weaknesses. But Oprah's humility in sharing her full story created a bond of trust and loyalty with her audience that is legendary. Her vulnerability didn't make her weaker. It made her more relatable and far more influential. This principle is also at the heart of what author Jim Collins calls Level 5 leadership. After studying companies that went from good to great, Collins found their leaders all shared a paradoxical mix of intense professional will and deep personal humility. They were ambitious, but for the company, not for themselves. When things went well, they looked out the window to give credit to others. When things went badly, they looked in the mirror to take responsibility. The celebrity CEO builds a company around themselves. The humble level 5 leader builds a company that can succeed long after they're gone. This idea is captured perfectly in the concept of servant leadership. When the disciples argued about who was the greatest, Jesus told them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last of all and servant of all." Mark 9 verse 35. True leadership isn't about control, it's about service and empowerment. Ego asks, "What can you do for me?" Humility asks, "What can I do for you?" Which question do you think inspires more loyalty? We've covered how humility makes you a better learner and a better collaborator. If this is resonating with you and you want to explore more practical wisdom for a successful life, take a second to subscribe to this channel. We go deep on these kinds of topics every week, and I'd love for you to be part of the conversation. Secret number 3, humility makes you resilient in failure. The third secret is perhaps the most critical of all. Humility makes you incredibly resilient. Ego and failure have a toxic relationship. An inflated ego is fragile. Since it's built on that unhealthy belief in your own importance, any failure feels like a personal attack. When an ego-driven person fails, they either blame external factors, the market, the team, the client, or they deny responsibility entirely. Underneath it all is a deep, burning shame, because the failure proves they aren't as special as their ego told them they were. This is catastrophic for growth. If you blame others, you learn nothing. Humility, on the other hand, transforms your relationship with failure. A humble person doesn't see failure as a reflection of their worth. They see it for what it is, a data point. It's an outcome that didn't go as planned, which means it contains a lesson. This is the core of what Carol Dweck calls the growth mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their talents are static, so they avoid challenges and see failure as proof of their limits. This is the mindset of ego. But people with a growth mindset believe their abilities can be developed. They embrace challenges and see failure as a crucial part of the learning process. This is the mindset of humility. Research shows that people with a growth mindset are far more resilient. They bounce back from adversity faster and stronger. Think about Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of America's greatest presidents, his life was a string of failures. He failed in business, had a nervous breakdown, and was defeated in numerous elections. An ego-driven person would have become bitter and quit. But Lincoln possessed a deep humility. He saw each failure not as a final judgment but as a lesson. This resilience, forged in the fires of failure, is precisely what prepared him for the immense challenges of the Civil War. There's a profound promise in the Bible in James 4 verse 10, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up." This can be read in a very practical, psychological way. When you humble yourself after a failure, accept reality, take responsibility, and look for the lesson, you are then lifted up by the new strength and knowledge you've gained. The act of humbling yourself is the mechanism for your own elevation. So, reframe your relationship with failure. See it not as an attack on your worth, but as an essential part of your education. When you stumble, and you will resist the ego's urge to blame and deny. Instead, practice the humility of honest self-reflection. Extract the lesson. That is the source of true resilience. Humility, on the other hand, transforms your relationship with failure. A humble person doesn't see failure as a reflection of their worth. They see it for what it is, a data point. It's an outcome that didn't go as planned, which means it contains a lesson. This is the core of what Carol Dweck calls the growth mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their talents are static, so they avoid challenges and see failure as proof of their limits. This is the mindset of ego. But people with a growth mindset believe their abilities can be developed. They embrace challenges and see failure as a crucial part of the learning process. This is the mindset of humility. Research shows that people with a growth mindset are far more resilient. They bounce back from adversity faster and stronger. Think about Abraham Lincoln. Before becoming one of America's greatest presidents, his life was a string of failures. He failed in business, had a nervous breakdown, and was defeated in numerous elections. An ego-driven person would have become bitter and quit. But Lincoln possessed a deep humility. He saw each failure not as a final judgment but as a lesson. This resilience, forged in the fires of failure, is precisely what prepared him for the immense challenges of the Civil War. There's a profound promise in the Bible in James 4 verse 10, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and He will lift you up." This can be read in a very practical, psychological way. When you humble yourself after a failure, accept reality, take responsibility, and look for the lesson, you are then lifted up by the new strength and knowledge you've gained. The act of humbling yourself is the mechanism for your own elevation. So, reframe your relationship with failure. See it not as an attack on your worth, but as an essential part of your education. When you stumble, and you will resist the ego's urge to blame and deny. Instead, practice the humility of honest self-reflection. Extract the lesson. That is the source of true resilience. In conclusion, we started with a counterintuitive idea that the loud, proud ego we're told will bring us success is often the very anchor holding us back. We've seen how ego, that unhealthy belief in our own importance, closes us off from reality. And we've uncovered the 3 secrets of its antidote: humility. First, humility makes you a perpetual student, turning every experience into a chance for growth. Second, humility builds deep connections, shifting your focus from me to we to create trust and collaboration. And third, humility makes you resilient, transforming failure from a crushing blow into a powerful lesson. The path of ego is one of fragility and stagnation. It might offer short-term glory, but it's a dead end. The path of humility is quieter, but it leads to connection, resilience, and lasting growth. It is the path of wisdom. As it said, "For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted." Luke 18 verse 14. This isn't a threat, it's just a description of reality. Ego contains the seeds of its own destruction. Humility contains the seeds of its own elevation. So here is a simple challenge. For the next 24 hours, try this. Approach every single conversation with one goal: to learn one new thing from the other person. Your boss, your barista, your partner, it doesn't matter. Set aside your own agenda, quiet that voice that's just waiting for its turn to speak, and simply listen. See what happens. See how it changes the dynamic. This small act is a powerful exercise in humility. It's a single step away from the barren land of ego and toward the fertile ground of growth. The choice is yours. You can let your ego continue to cost you success, or you can choose the quiet strength of humility and unlock a world of opportunity you never knew existed. I want to hear from you in the comments what you have learned from this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this.